Hi, and welcome to this video about setting up AWS Transform user management with AWS IAM Identity Center. The voice for this video is generated using the Matthew generative voice available in Amazon Polly. You probably already know a little bit about AWS Transform, but I'll give a quick introduction just to level set. AWS Transform is the first agentic AI service for large-scale migration and modernization of workloads built on VMware, mainframe, and .NET framework. AWS Transform delivers an agentic AI experience that accelerates migration and modernization while reducing costs at enterprise scale. Transform offers a unified web experience separate from the AWS console and is designed to provide end-to-end automation of workload migration and modernization, enabling migration teams to focus on delivering high-quality results. While there are a few different ways users can interact with AWS Transform, this video focuses on the unified web experience you can use to develop and execute a migration plan for .NET, mainframe, and VMware workloads. This diagram shows a typical AWS organization designed according to the guidelines published in the AWS Well-Architected framework. This organization is governed by AWS Control Tower, which automates and simplifies much of the infrastructure governance that many AWS customers need. But nothing presented in this video actually requires Control Tower to be enabled. Let's simplify our diagram to focus on the two AWS accounts involved in setting up AWS Transform: the Organization Management account where AWS IAM Identity Center is configured, and a Shared Services account where we will set up AWS Transform. While AWS Transform is often used by development teams, AWS recommends you set it up in an account that is not generally accessible by developers directly, since they will be using the unified web experience independently from the AWS console. AWS recommends that you configure Identity Center to federate authentication to an external enterprise identity provider and replicate user and group information into Identity Center. That keeps your identity provider as the single source of truth for authentication while making user and group information available for managing users within AWS Transform and other AWS managed applications. Now let's jump into the AWS console to see how user management for AWS Transform works with Identity Center. To begin, we are going to log into the AWS console for the Shared Services account as a user with the necessary permissions to manage AWS Transform. In this case, we are connecting to the console through an Identity Center permission set, but all AWS Transform management actions can be performed through direct account IAM federation, IAM users, or even the account root user. AWS strongly recommends moving to a federated authentication model, reserving IAM users and the account root user for break glass or special purpose access only. Once we are logged into the console, we will navigate to the AWS Transform service. Then click Get Started. If you want to use a customer-managed AWS KMS key, you can select it here, otherwise it will default to encrypting data with a key that AWS manages for you. Click Enable AWS Transform. Once the service is configured, we'll click View Profile so we can see what was set up. Make a note of the web application URL, since users will need it to access the AWS Transform Unified Web Experience. Now let's set up access for our developers. Select Users in the navigation menu and click Assign Users or Groups. Click in the search field and start typing the name of the group of developers who will be using AWS Transform. These groups are propagated from your external identity provider. Select the group of developers, then click Assign. All of the members of that group now have access to use the unified web experience for AWS Transform. While there are a few different ways users can interact with AWS Transform, this video focuses on the unified web experience you can use to develop and execute a migration plan for .NET, mainframe, and VMware workloads. Now let's see what the end-user experience is like for AWS Transform. When a user of AWS Transform navigates to the unified web experience URL, they will be asked to authenticate through the external enterprise identity provider, which should already be familiar. From there, They are taken directly to AWS Transform, where they can create a new workspace, collaborate with others in a shared workspace, or experiment in the default personal workspace provided for them. Now that we've seen the access management setup and end-user experience for AWS Transform, we'll direct you to some resources to help you get started. To learn more about how AWS Transform can help you modernize your workloads, visit the service landing page at the first QR code. Navigate to the second QR code if you would like to schedule an experience-based acceleration engagement. The third QR code will take you directly to the AWS Transform Get Started resources within the AWS console. We, here at AWS, hope you found this video helpful in getting started with your workload modernization journey with AWS Transform. As we mentioned at the beginning, the voice for this video was generated by Amazon Polly. If you want to learn more about Amazon Polly and related AWS generative AI services, this QR code will take you to the Polly main product page. Thank you for your time and for being an AWS customer.